Ever have one of those mornings where just looking at your to-do list feels exhausting?
Oh, yeah. Like you're wading through mud before the day's even started.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That feeling, that real drag.
Yeah.
If that sounds familiar, then, well, you're in the right place today.
Because that feeling, that resistance, it often gets slapped with one label, doesn't it? Lazy.
And that's exactly what we're digging into. We've gone through a lot of material to really unpack this whole idea of laziness. And if you've ever called yourself that or just felt completely stuck.
There's usually way more going on than just, not having enough willpower.
Right. So our mission here is to look past that simple label. We want to uncover the real reasons we sometimes avoid things, and more importantly, find some solid strategies to get unstuck. We're pulling from psychology, even some really interesting stuff from Shaolin philosophy.
It's not about just forcing discipline, is it? It's deeper.
No, exactly. It's about understanding those underlying currents, the procrastination, the lack of motivation, all of it.
So this idea of laziness, it feels like a single thing, but the sources, they show it's actually much more complex.
Yeah, not just flipping a switch. So what kinds of things feed into it?
Well, one big one is just plain confusion. Sometimes that lazy feeling is actually, you're just not sure what to do next.
Ah, okay. Like staring at a huge project and thinking, where do I even begin?
Precisely. It's not necessarily that you don't want to do it, it's that the first step isn't clear.
That makes a lot of sense. What else?
Then there's fear, big one, often tied to what psychologists call a fixed mindset, believing your talents are just fixed.
Right.
So the fear of failing, of not being good enough, it can just stop you in your tracks, that if I can't do it perfectly, I won't try at all kind of thinking.
Paralysis by perfectionism. I get that.
Totally. And then sometimes it's simpler, just fatigue. You feel resistant because you are genuinely wiped out, physically or mentally.
Okay, straightforward enough. And what about just not caring?
Yeah, apathy. That's definitely in the mix. If you don't see the point or have zero interest, well, motivation's going to be pretty low, isn't it?
Naturally. The sources also mentioned low self-belief. That voice saying, oh, I'm just a lazy person. That sounds really tough.
It's incredibly limiting, because if you believe that's just who you are, then trying to change feels like fighting your own nature.
Yeah.
But here's a key insight, kind of drawing from mindfulness. Feeling lazy today doesn't mean you are lazy fundamentally. It's a temporary state.
So not over-identifying with the feeling. That's powerful. What else did the research point to?
There's something described as a loss of heart. That feeling of, what's the point anyway? What difference will it make?
Disillusionment.
Yeah, when you feel like your efforts are pointless. And finally, there's comfort orientation. We're wired to seek pleasure, right? So it's that tendency to put off the hard stuff for something fun right now. The classic, I'll do it after I watch one more episode.
Okay, so it's this whole cocktail of reasons, not just one simple flaw. And figuring out your specific mix, that's the starting point.
Exactly. Because the solution that works depends entirely on what's actually driving the bus for you.
Now, something else that came up a lot was this concept called experiential avoidance, or EA. Sounds kind of technical, but I think it's something we all do.
Oh, constantly. EA is basically just our habit of trying to dodge unpleasant thoughts, feelings, sensations, anything uncomfortable, really.
Like a mental sidestep.
Yeah, and the sources call it the world's worst coping mechanism because short-term, it feels like relief. You avoided the yucky thing.
But it's like taking a detour that just leads you further away.
Right.
The roundabout metaphor they used.
Perfect metaphor. You keep circling to avoid the discomfort, but you never actually get where you need to go. And often the problem just gets bigger while you're circling.
Like that email example.
Yeah.
You put off sending a slightly awkward reply.
And suddenly it's way more awkward because you've ignored it for a week, and now there are follow-ups and your anxiety is through the roof.
Been there. Definitely been there. So this avoidance, it leaks into other areas too.
Big time. Avoiding tough conversations kills intimacy. Dodging feedback stunts your growth. Never setting boundaries because it feels uncomfortable. You get walked all over.
Oof. Okay, so how do we get off this roundabout? What's the escape route?
The way out, according to the sources, is acceptance. And this is crucial. Acceptance doesn't mean liking the discomfort or resigning yourself to misery.
Right, it's not passive surrender.
No, it's simply acknowledging reality as it is without adding extra layers of struggle on top.
Like avoiding those second darts from the Buddhist parable.
Exactly. The first dart is the unpleasant thing itself, the difficult task, the feeling of anxiety. The second dart is our reaction to it, the judgment, the I shouldn't feel this way, the frantic efforts to make it go away. Acceptance is about dealing with the first start without stabbing ourselves with all those extra ones.
Okay, that distinction is really helpful. So practically, how do we cultivate that acceptance?
Yeah.
How do we actually step off the roundabout?
3 main steps came up. Step 1, name your experience. Just notice what your particular brand of avoidance looks like. Are you distracting yourself, ruminating, aiming for impossible standards, numbing out? The key is just observing it neutrally. Like, there's that familiar urge to check my phone instead of starting this report. No judgment, just awareness.
Okay, notice the pattern. Step 2.
Step 2, find your reason for getting off. Choosing discomfort is hard in the moment. You need a compelling why. What's the cost of staying on this roundabout? Lost time, strained relationships, missed opportunities. And what's the benefit of getting off? Living more aligned with your values, feeling more capable, really connect with what you gain by facing the discomfort.
Get clear on the motivation. Makes sense. And step 3.
Step 3, make the choice to choose discomfort. Just decide. And the interesting thing is, sometimes simply making that conscious choice can feel instantly empowering. It might lessen the dread. The advice is, act more, dwell less. Take one small step forward instead of getting lost in analyzing how awful it's going to be.
Choose the discomfort. Okay, that feels doable. Now, shifting gears a bit, the deep dive also looked at this discipline mindset, but framed it as more than just willpower.
Yeah, I talked about self-mastery as something deeper, and it brought in insights from Shaolin monks who really focus on that mind-body connection, on understanding the obstacles within us. They talk about the 5 hindrances.
5 hindrances? Sounds intriguing. What are they?
They're basically mental states that cloud our thinking, mess up our choices, and block our progress. The first one is ill will. This isn't just being slightly annoyed, it's that strong resistance, that feeling of rejection towards something or someone.
To like actively pushing against reality.
Kind of. The source used a great example. A martial arts student gets hit by the master. One student feels anger, resentment, that's ill will. Another sees the same pain as feedback, a lesson. The external event is the same, but the internal response, the ill will, changes everything. The problem isn't always the situation, but our resistance to enduring difficulty.
Wow, that reframing is powerful. Okay, what's the second hindrance?
Sloth and torpor. Now, this isn't just being sleepy, it's more like mental heaviness, inertia, feeling hopeless or depressed. And what's fascinating is the Shaolin perspective sees enthusiasm not as something you just wait for, but something you actively cultivate, like a skill.
So you don't just hope for motivation, you work on generating enthusiasm. Interesting.
Exactly. The third hindrance clusters around anxiety, self-doubt, fear, judgment, all that mental noise. These things yank you out of the present. Your mind races, you can't focus, you make poor decisions, which then feeds more anxiety. It's a nasty loop. Mindfulness meditation is often suggested here to create that bit of space.
That space between stimulus and response we talked about.
Precisely. Fourth is doubt and skepticism, which often looks like low self-esteem or lack of confidence these days. It makes you hesitate, undermines your commitment. You need that inner sturdiness, that trust in yourself to really achieve mastery.
The fifth.
The sources focus mainly on those 4 in detail, but they all tie into needing to overcome these internal obstacles. And they introduce the RAIN method. Recognize, accept, investigate non-identification as a practical way to work with these hindrances. That non-identification piece is key, seeing thoughts and feelings as passing events, not you. It gives you choice.
This whole framework, it's a very different way of looking at discipline, isn't it? Much more internal.
Definitely more holistic. It's about understanding your own mind.
Okay, another surprising angle was this idea of deliberately embracing discomfort. Seems counterintuitive.
It really does. But the sources talked about comfort creep. You know, we gradually make our lives easier and easier, better tech, faster delivery, more convenience.
The path to the least resistance.
Exactly. And while that feels good initially, over time, you can actually become less resilient, less appreciative, and find even tiny inconveniences almost unbearable, like getting upset because the Wi-Fi is a bit slow.
Yeah, I recognize that. So too much comfort makes us fragile.
That's the paradox. The easier life gets, the harder it is to cope when things aren't easy.
So the solution is intentionally seek out discomfort.
In controlled ways, yes. The sources introduced misogi, adapted from a Japanese practice. It involves taking on a challenge that's really hard, like maybe a 50% chance you think you can do it, but also relatively safe. It's more about mental toughness than physical danger.
Okay, like a voluntary hardship. What's the point?
Several things. It quiets those constant cravings and desires. It massively boosts gratitude for everyday comforts. It kind of vaccinates you against future stress. You learn you can handle hard things. And it builds incredible confidence. Seneca said something similar, right? Practice hardship when times are good.
Like resilience training for the mind.
Exactly. A Maswagi isn't about extreme sports necessarily. It's about picking something that truly pushes your boundaries and proving to yourself you can endure more than you thought. That changes your self-perception.
That sounds intense. Are there like less intense ways to do this daily?
Totally. Small doses work too. Things like intermittent fasting, cold showers, maybe underdressing slightly for the weather, sleeping on the floor occasionally, doing chores manually instead of using the easiest gadget. The aim isn't self-punishment. It's learning firsthand that discomfort usually isn't as catastrophic as our minds make it out to be, and that it doesn't have to stop us.
Recalibrating your tolerance. Okay. Now let's talk about psychological flexibility and ACT acceptance and commitment therapy. How does that fit in?
Psychological flexibility is basically your ability to stay present and do what matters to you, aligned with your values, even when difficult thoughts, feelings, or situations show up. It's the opposite of being rigid or getting totally derailed by discomfort.
That Jenny and her mother example during lockdown really illustrated the difference, didn't it?
Perfectly.
Yeah.
The inflexible response was getting stuck in negativity, feeling helpless, avoiding connection. The flexible response acknowledged the fear and sadness, but still took action based on the value of connection, reaching out to her mom.
So ACT gives us a roadmap for becoming more flexible like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
ACT isn't about eliminating bad feelings. It's about living a meaningful, values-driven life despite them. It has 6 core skills or mindset shifts to help you do that.
Okay, let's break them down.
First is acceptance. Being willing to allow difficult thoughts and feelings to be there without fighting them. Cultivated through mindfulness, just letting them come and go.
Letting the wave wash over you instead of struggling against it.
Good way to put it. Second is cognitive diffusion. This is about seeing thoughts as just thoughts, words, images, stories in your head, not objective reality or commands you have to obey. The hand-waving exercise helps create that distance.
Untangling yourself from your thoughts. Got it. Next.
Present moment contact. Intentionally focusing on the here and now, using your senses. Because the present is the only place you can actually do anything.
Grounding.
Fourth is self as context. This is a bit trickier, but it's seeing yourself as the container or the sky in which thoughts, feelings, sensations, the weather happen. You are the awareness observing it all, not the storm itself. It helps detach from rigid self-stories.
Ah, the observing self. I see.
Fifth is values. Getting clear on what truly matters to you deep down. What kind of person do you want to be? What qualities do you want to embody? Values act as your compass, guiding your choices, especially when things get tough. The tombstone exercise can help clarify these.
Knowing your why. And the last one.
Committed action. Taking concrete steps, even small ones, that move you towards your values. Doing what matters. This builds momentum and reinforces that you can act effectively, even with discomfort present. Your values point the way, committed action is actually walking the path.
This ACT stuff sounds incredibly practical. And it connects to emotional control, too.
Yes, but control in the sense of choosing your response, not suppressing the emotion itself. Remember Viktor Frankl, the space between stimulus and response. The sources mention the 90-second rule that the initial biochemical rush of an emotion is fairly short. What keeps it going is often our thinking about the emotion.
So we have a window of opportunity there.
Exactly. 4 strategies came up. Know your triggers or red flags. Tune into the physical sensations of the emotion. Label the emotion, accurately nuanced words help. And crucially, practice pausing in that 90 seconds, creating distance before reacting impulsively.
Valuable tools. Okay, let's face the beast. The procrastination doom loop. We've all been trapped there.
Oh yes. And the key insight from the sources, especially drawing on Neil Feuer's work, is that procrastination is less about bad time management and more about managing difficult emotions associated with a task. Perfectionism is a huge driver.
Right. The fear of not doing it perfectly.
Yeah, tied to a fixed mindset. You set the bar impossibly high, feel anxious about failing, so you avoid starting, which makes you feel worse, which justifies more avoidance. Down the spiral you go. The tax return example was classic.
So how do we break out? How do we escape the loop?
First, self-compassion and acceptance. Don't beat yourself up for procrastinating. Acknowledge it happens. Accept the uncomfortable feeling about starting, but don't let it be a roadblock.
Be kind, but still act. Okay.
Second, reframe your thoughts. Shift focus from the unpleasantness of the task to your values or the bigger goal it serves. Reframe failure as learning. Change the internal story.
Connected to something meaningful. Got it. Yeah.
Take baby steps. Just start. Do one tiny thing. Motivation often follows action. It doesn't precede it. Don't wait to feel like it. Just do the smallest possible step right now.
Action breeds motivation. I like that. Now, the flashlight metaphor for attention was really useful. Tell us about that again.
Right. This is from Amisha Cha. She talks about 3 attention modes. The flashlight is your focused awareness deliberately pointing your attention at one thing, essential for concentrating on goals, values, and filtering out noise.
Directing the beam. What are the others?
The caution sign is your alerting system scanning for threats. Vital for safety, but if it's stuck on, you get anxiety and hypervigilance. It's linked to the stress response system, the HPA axis.
Constantly on alert.
Okay.
And the third?
The juggler is your executive function managing tasks, holding information in mind, planning. When this is overloaded or impaired, focus and organization suffer.
So becoming aware of how we're paying attention is step 1 to improving it.
Absolutely. Simply noticing when your flashlight drifts is the first skill. The puppy training analogy is great. Gently guide your attention back again and again without scolding yourself. Mind wandering is just a signal to refocus.
Gentle redirection. How do we actually train that flashlight?
Breath awareness is fundamental. Focusing on the physical sensation of breathing gives your flashlight an anchor. When it wanders, which it will, you just gently bring it back. Each return strengthens the muscle. The bus stop analogy helps too. Notice distracting thoughts like buses arriving, acknowledge them, but choose not to get on board.
Let them pass by.
Yeah.
The finding your flashlight exercise seemed like a good concrete practice.
Very much so. Simple steps. Good posture, follow the breath, notice where you feel it, gently return when you wander. The magic, as they say, is in the returning. That's the rep. Recognizing distractions, memories, sounds, worries, judgments is part of the practice too.
Okay, building on attention. The arrow model of focus brought in the neurochemistry. Tell us about the arrow.
Right, it links focus to 3 key neurochemicals. The shaft of the arrow is energy and alertness, driven by epinephrine, adrenaline. The arrowhead is the direction and sharpness of focus, linked to acetylcholine. And dopamine helps sustain motivation, keeping the arrow on target like the binding.
Shaft, arrowhead, binding, energy, direction, motivation. What if one is missing?
Low epinephrine, lethargy, no energy to start, low acetylcholine, scattered, easily distracted, problems with dopamine, can't stick with it, lose motivation quickly.
So how can we influence these? Boost the shaft, sharpen the head, strengthen the binding.
For epinephrine energy, strategic caffeine, good stress like deadlines or challenges, cold showers, but avoid chronic stress. For acetylcholine, focus. Focus visualization exercises, minimizing distractions in your environment. For dopamine, motivation consistency. Focus on foundational health exercise, protein, less saturated fat, gut health, fiber, good sleep, sunlight. Be wary of random supplements.
It really hammers home that mind-body connection. Mental focus relies on physical health. Now, what about Spartan discipline, improvement by subtraction?
This flows right from the flashlight idea. If your focus is a beam, what's outside the beam doesn't really exist for that moment. Spartan discipline is about ruthlessly cutting out the non-essentials to keep your flashlight tightly focused. Simplifying.
The Chris versus Christina comparison showed that clearly.
Yeah, Chris was scattered, pulled in all directions. Christina was laser-focused because she intentionally eliminated distractions, housework, certain work tasks, temptations at home. She simplified ruthlessly.
The Rose, simplify, simplify.
Exactly. It's about deciding what not to spend your precious attention and energy on. Budgeting your life force for what truly matters to you.
Saying no to the trivial to say yes to the vital. Okay, now, working with our bodies, the ultradian rhythms. This pushes back against grind culture.
Definitely. Rest isn't lazy, it's smart. Our bodies have natural cycles, not just the 24-hour circadian rhythm, but also shorter 90, 120-minute ultradian rhythms of peak energy, followed by a dip needing rest.
So trying to power through those dips is counterproductive.
Hugely. Energy management beats time management. Schedule demanding work for your peaks, schedule breaks or lighter tasks for the troughs. Ignoring these rhythms leads to burnout, even if you think you're not a morning person.
How can we work with these cycles?
Rework your schedule where possible. Take real breaks after 90 or 120 minutes, step away, change gears. Don't feel guilty about brief distractions, just refocus. Set boundaries. Use sunlight to sync your clock. Plan exercise smartly, and maybe rethink rigid rest days if they throw off your natural weekly rhythm too much.
A more sustainable way to work. Okay, but what about those times when you just have zero motivation? Even with all this knowledge.
It happens. Motivation ebbs and flows. That's where the pre-game routine comes in. Like athletes have rituals before a game, regardless of how they feel. It primes you for action.
A reliable trigger to get started, bypassing the need for inspiration. How do we build one?
Step 1, make it easy. Ridiculously easy. Tiny automatic actions. Getting water, putting shoes on, walking past your desk. The goal is just to overcome inertia with almost zero willpower. Don't make the routine itself feel like a chore.
Just break the initial friction. Step 2.
Get moving, literally. Physical movement impacts your mental state. Even for a mental task like writing, starting with a physical action, pacing, stretching, brainstorming on foot can shift you into gear. Remember the smile happiness link? Movement helps.
Use the body to lead the mind.
Yeah.
And make the routine automatic, so not doing it feels weird. Okay, tackling the big stuff. Do the big thing first.
Absolutely key. The eat the frog technique. Identify your most important, most challenging task, the frog, and do it first thing when energy and willpower are highest. It demolishes procrastination dread.
Get the worst over with. How do we do it right?
1. Find your frog, list tasks, break them down, identify the priority based on impact and deadlines, connect it to your values. 2. Eat the biggest frog first. If there are multiple, tackle the gnarliest one. 3. Eat it in the morning. Sets a productive tone for the day.
Focus energy on the highest leverage task. What about the first pancake theory? Seems opposite.
Complementary, actually. It acknowledges your first attempt might be imperfect, like the first pancake. It's about just starting, accepting imperfection as a warm-up. For some, that messy first step is the frog just getting started. The core idea is the same. Tackle the hard thing when you have the energy, whether aiming for perfection or just getting going.
Overcome inertia, one way or another. Warren Buffett's two-list strategy fits here too.
Perfectly. List 25 goals. Circle the top 5. List A. Aggressively avoid the other 20. List B. Until list A is done. It's extreme prioritization. Ruthless focus.
Cut the clutter. Okay, final concept. Never zero commitment. What's that about?
It's about consistency over intensity. Commitment isn't about feeling motivated, it's about doing what you said you'd do, period. Like the proverb, doesn't matter how slow you walk, just don't stop. Set a bare minimum you will always do, no matter what.
So even on the worst day, you do something.
Exactly. Feeling sick, instead of skipping your run, do a 5-minute walk. Or even just put on your running shoes. The commitment is to never do zero. Make that minimum non-negotiable. It connects to the pre-game routine, the first pancake. Once you commit to the minimum, there's no debate. You just do it.
So pulling it all together, self-discipline isn't about being a robot. It's really about self-understanding and using smart strategies to work with our own messy human nature.
That's it exactly. We've covered so much understanding why we feel lazy, beating experiential avoidance with acceptance, building that disciplined mindset through discomfort and flexibility, mastering attention, syncing with our body clocks, using routines, prioritizing frogs, and that never zero commitment.
It's a powerful toolkit. Okay, final thought for everyone listening. Think about one frog, one task you keep putting off. What's the absolute smallest action, the never zero step you could commit to doing? Maybe even right after this. Start there. You've got the tools now to begin that journey to self-mastery.